What's up fellow bounty hunters, and welcome to my subjective Metroid games tier list. This will be a quick video that will be sandwiched in between two larger videos, and don't worry, the full Metroid timeline video is still in the works. I'm like 90% done with the script, and with no further ado, let's begin. There are only two games on this tier, and that is Metroid Prime Pinball because I can't find the ROM anywhere, and Federation Force because I never had the time to properly play it. Now let's move on to the F tier. The F tier is filled with only one game, and that would be the original Metroid on the NES. Let's be honest here, the game is ass. It was built with duct tape and a few pieces of plastic. Okay, I won't give it too much heat for this because at the time it was pretty good. But at the time of its release it was a revolutionary game, and alongside Castlevania spawned the Metroidvania genre of video games. But today, let's be honest, it's not good. But at least it got a remake on the GBA, spoilers, it's in A tier. But my ramblings aside, let's move on to the E tier. The first game on the E tier is Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Again, this game has not aged quite well because, come on, it's on the Game Boy. But let's give credit where credit is due. It introduced a lot of power-ups we have in Metroid games nowadays, and besides it has an official remake on the 3DS and a fan-made one on PC as AM2R. Alright, the next game is... oh god, do I have to talk about this game? Really? Here we go. The next game in the E tier is Metroid Other M. Let's be honest here. This game is dog shit, alright? Dog shit because 1. The dialogue is fucking awful. 2. The game absolutely bastardized the character of Adam Malkovich in the gameplay. Okay, I'll at least give credit to the combat, which is pretty good. What it would be if the control scheme wasn't so fucking atrocious. Whose idea was it to replicate the control scheme of the first fucking Metroid game? Like, I understand that Sakamoto-san wanted to make a mainly story-driven Metroid game, but why? Metroid was never mainly about the story, it was about the gameplay. The gameplay! And besides, if you wanted to make a Metroid thing that focuses more on the story, then why the fuck didn't you greenlit any of the Metroid movies pitched to you in the 2000s? This game pisses me off. Let's move on. There is only one game on this tier, and that will be Metroid Prime Hunters. Hunters is one of the only Metroid games that has a multiplayer mode. The two other games that have multiplayer in them are Metroid Prime Federation Force and Prime 2. And to give credit, the multiplayer is pretty good. Triss is fucking awesome, by the way. But Carl, what about single player? Well, dear viewer, the bounty hunters, outside of a few exceptions and a small blip of character in their descriptions, there is nothing to them.
But Carl, didn't you say the Metroid games shouldn't focus on the characters?
Well, dear viewer, 1. Shut the fuck up, and 2. The story in the Metroid games should be a cherry on top. It should be a dessert to the gameplay. But Hunters has almost nothing in the character department, and in turn, the gameplay suffers from that. At least the gunplay is good. There are 3 games in C tier, and the first one is Metroid Samus Returns. I might get a bit of heat for this, but it's piss easy. The gameplay and story are good, and as a remake is fantastic, but the difficulty is just too easy for most Metroid fans, and I kinda hate the changes that were made to the ending. The other 2 games are Prime 1 and Prime 2. The gameplay is amazing, and shout out to Retro Studios for absolutely hitting it out of the park with converting Metroid into 3D and proving everyone wrong by making Metroid work as a first-person adventure game. The story is phenomenal. Dark Samus is one of the better Metroid villains, and I couldn't have been happier with what we got. But they have flaws. Metroid Prime 1 has its hell-cold backtracking, and Prime 2 has its brutal difficulty that is just too much for some people. Prime 3 is the peak of the Prime series so far. It improved on so much. The story, the puzzles, the difficulty, and surprisingly even the gameplay. It tied up a lot of loose ends in the Prime games, and holy shit, the story-driven fake out in the beginning is so fucking good. Not to mention the characters are fucking brilliant. The only flaw I can point out is the backtracking, but it's not as bad as in Prime 1. Overall, Prime 3 is a phenomenal game, and I'm glad Nintendo gave back the development rights for Prime 4 back to Retro Studios. There are only 2 games in this tier, but both of them are one of the best 2D games I have ever played. And the first one, as I previously stated, is Metroid Zero Mission. This game is an amazing remake, and it deserves more praise than it gets, because it added so much. New bosses, a map, good game design, and a new epilogue that is set on the space pirate mothership. And even some minor cutscenes. Just give it a chance if you want, you won't be disappointed. The second game in this tier is Metroid Fusion. This was my first Metroid game, and so I might be looking at this game through the rose-tinted glasses. But when I replayed it to get footage for the Metroid timeline video, I was proven wrong. It's an amazing game. The gameplay is as always amazing, and the story is one of the best the Metroid series has to offer. Especially the twist with Adam Malkovich and the Federation. This game introduced me to one of the best game franchises on earth, and I'm thankful that it did. But my ramblings aside, let's move on to S tier. This tier has again only 2 games in it, but I consider these the cream of the crop of Metroid games and gaming as a whole. The first one we are gonna talk about is Super Metroid. What can I say about this game? Pretty much nothing. You have to play it for yourself to understand why it's the best Metroid game and one of the best games of all time.
We'll soon be entering CGR's atmosphere.
Metroid Dread is not the best Metroid game. That title would obviously go to Super Metroid, but I'm just gonna say this. Go play it. It's a swan song to the entire series and will probably be one of the last Metroid games we will ever get, since the Metroid and X-Parasite arcs are pretty much done. I want to end this video with a statement. The Metroid series had its highs and lows, but despite that, it is the best video game series that Nintendo, hell, the entire gaming industry has put out, and I beg everyone that watches the video to go out and play at least one of the games I mentioned today. And with that, I would ask you to like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.